Have you thought about you before you write about them? Roll it, fellas. This is earnest. I'm gonna die.
Give me a hug.
You are gonna love this. Hello, and welcome to Wretched. My name is Todd Friel. I am your host, the wretch the song refers to. If you are like me, first of all, I'm very sorry. Second of all, you read an article, watch a video, you get a thought in your noodle, it's locked, it's loaded, and kaboom! John Newton, Mr. Amazing Grace, has a word of warning for you and me before we engage in public discourse, specifically regarding controversy. The world is squabbling about virtually everything these days, and sadly, all too often, we Christians queue up and we don't do a better job than the pagans in disagreeing with one another. That ought not to be. John Newton encouraged us to consider three major categories of people before we just blast away. And this, by the way, isn't only about posting a comment on YouTube, writing a blog. It's responding to anything we hear, an encouragement to just slow down and think through some things before you go bang, bang, bang. We are, first of all, encouraged to think about others. After all, we are to put others above self. Therefore, we consider about whom am I speaking or writing? Are they a believer, an unbeliever? What is my goal? What is the subject matter? What level are we dealing with? I want to consider those things before I just... Second, that's right, your board doesn't sound exactly like mine. I've got some issues with mine. I think it needs some WD-40. It goes when I fire something off. I also need to think about myself, and that means you need to think about you before you talk about anyone else. From John Newton, he wrote, "We find but very few writers of controversy who have not been manifestly hurt by it. Either they grow in a sense of their own importance or imbibe an angry, contentious spirit." You ever heard that one? "Or they insensibly withdrawn their attention from those things which are the food and immediate support of the life of faith, and spend their time and strength upon matters which are at most but of a secondary value." This shows that if the service of speaking about controversy is honorable, it is also dangerous. We need to remember that there are effects to what we put out there, including for us. Doing discernment is dangerous. It has all kinds of shrapnel flying all over the place, not only for the person about whom we are speaking, but toward ourselves. We can become and we see everything with a spirit of criticism, and we've just got to let them have a little hoo. Christians shouldn't be crabby. We shouldn't be sour all the time. We shouldn't be the ones who see the dark side of everything. I know that's my spiritual gift. Nevertheless, I got to mortify it so that I can be a wee bit more charitable, kind, gracious. And that can be kind of hard. Question, why? Why is it so difficult to be polite in discourse? For me, I feel like I'm giving away the argument. I feel like I'm going to lose the battle. If I'm too soft on this, it might indicate I'm selling out or becoming liberal. We need to overcome that and use some different adjectives to describe what it means to write kindly, sometimes gently, and even when we need to discuss things forcefully, it is with a tone of love. that does not mean we are giving up the argument. That means we're maturing. Careful, little one, before you go about the business of discussing things publicly, posting, speaking, sharing opinions. We can get harmed in the wake of an effort to try to make things better. We can harm ourselves by becoming sour and bitter, perhaps embarrassed. More from John Newton. What will it profit a man if he gains his cause and silences his adversary, if at the same time he loses that humble, tender frame of spirit in which the Lord delights and to which the promise of his presence is made? Gotta tell you, I've read a fair amount of John Newton, and he does come across softer, which is fascinating to me because his faith statement is as robust as any Puritan's. John Newton was not a theological squish, and yet when he wrote about issues du jour, which are also the issues of the day, it didn't come across sharply. Now, some of us, we have a tendency to like to be willing to speak the truth, and it comes out just a little bit more bitterly or contentiously, and Newton is encouraging us to have it come out sweetly. What does it profit us if we win the argument? If we get a lot of views or hits or likes, but we become crabby jerks? More from John Newton. Your aim, I doubt not, is good, he wrote to another minister, but you have need to watch and pray, for you will find Satan at your right hand to resist you. He will try to debase your views, and though you set out in defense of the cause of God, if you're not continually looking to the Lord to keep you, it may become your own cause and awaken in you those tempers which are inconsistent with true peace of mind and will surely obstruct communion with God. In other words, discernment is dangerous, and we must take heed lest we sound like polemical jerks. Not only are we to consider ourselves, there are others involved in this exercise called discernment, and we will discuss them next on Wretched. Welcome to the fertile fields of Moldova. Rich soil, little productivity because there is high alcoholism and low initiative, which means the children are neglected and hungry. But for the Tomorrow Clubs in Moldova, feeding children and feeding them the Word of God so that they might be saved and become productive citizens of Moldova, please consider supporting your own Tomorrow Club at tomorrowclubs.org/wretched. Please meet MediShare member Oceana, who is a full-time author and editor who suffered a heart attack, and at the time her family had been struggling financially, so the thought of paying huge medical bills was naturally terrifying, but her fellow MediShare members shared 100% of the bills. She says MediShare is supportive and wonderful and gives her peace of mind. For your peace of mind, visit medishare.com/wretched. Welcome back to Wretched. Discernment. It is a subject in which many Christians consider themselves experts, and yet how many of us actually think it through? There are rules to the game of discernment or polemics. There are biblical guardrails that must keep us writing, acting, speaking like Christ, lest we win the argument but ultimately lose the war. Remember, anytime we're dealing with a contentious issue, truth is at stake. Souls might be in the balance. These are big things that we're discussing. But that doesn't mean when we use our mouths or our fingertips to write something that there isn't more happening. People are doing more than just reading or hearing our critique. They're reading us. That means you and I need to be mindful about ourselves before we go about the business of discerning. And this takes some practice, some discipline, and some good old-fashioned Christian maturity. This is not selling out by writing more lovingly, by not always responding to every single thing that's just a little bit off in their argument, or in responding sinfully if they even sin against us. John Newton wrote this: "Be upon your guard against admitting, allowing into, introducing anything personal into the debate. If you think that you have been ill-treated, you will have an opportunity of showing that you are a disciple of Jesus, who when he was reviled not again. When he suffered, he threatened not." Ooh, do you feel that bumper constraining you to be like Christ? Let's just say you've engaged in controversy, orally or in written form, and the person with whom you're having a disagreement fires back, and he wings you because he's actually sinned against you by reviling you. How do you respond? Tit for tat? Is it an eye for an eye, a tooth for you? Let's forget lex talionis and respond like Christ, who did not respond back when people reviled him. He just took it. Oh, that doesn't feel good. That's not the way my flesh wants to respond. I got to get him back. I can't allow this to stand. Somebody might actually believe the accusation. I have got to score a higher point than he did, lest we what? Ultimately, lest we don't look like Jesus. Let him be our role model when it comes to discernment. From John Newton, who wrote, "This is our pattern. Thus we are to speak and write for God, not rendering railing for railing, but contrariwise blessing, knowing that hereunto we are called." Okay. This just keeps getting harder. Somebody snipes at me, I want to snipe right back. Jesus constrains me, I revile not in return. But wait, it is not enough. I can't think of a time when this doesn't apply in Christianity, to just put off. I need to also put on. This is the dual principle of Christian sanctification. It's not just stopping, it's doing what we're supposed to do. That means if somebody takes a shot at me, rather than firing back, I restrain myself and then think about, how can I bless them in this? Please note, I can think of an exception to this particular rule. Not that we ever revile back, but there are times indeed, if one's reputation is being shot up to tatters, it is, I think, okay to defend one's name. Why? Because the Proverbs tell me that a good name, a good reputation, is a highly sought after prize. So we can, in certain circumstances, respond to, but how we do it, those rules still apply. More from John Newton, beating us up. "The wisdom that is from above is not only pure, but peaceable and gentle, and the want of these qualifications, like the dead fly in the pot of ointment, will spoil the savor and efficacy of your labors." This too constrains us. If I write in a way that causes people to read my argument, hear my perspective, and go, yep, but I've spoiled it with a contentious spirit or attitude, it's all for naught. More from John Newton. "If we act in a wrong spirit, we shall bring little glory to God, do little good to our fellow creatures, and procure neither honor nor comfort to ourselves." Just in case you happen to have fallen and hit your head during this presentation and thought, oh, Friel must be perfect at this. Let me dismiss that notion, like aggressively. If I look back 10 years ago to hear myself offer a public critique of somebody, whether a Christian or not, frankly, if I listen back 10 days ago, I can hear a tone and an attitude that is anything but Christ-like. What John Newton is lecturing about and what I'm merely delivering is not something that I've achieved. Frankly, I don't know if any of us can always get this right all the time, but should we not be striving and progressing and maturing and getting better? Shouldn't we ultimately be able to listen back or to read back in time and go, that's not the way that I would say it today. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That means that the Lord is growing us. When we return, there is yet another group of people, not just the object of our critique, not just ourselves, but what about all those are sitting in the stands and viewing us? Next on Wretched.
It is not uncommon for a woman to feel scared and alone when she finds herself unexpectedly pregnant. Abortion can seem like the only answer. But when they visit a preborn center and receive a free ultrasound, 80% of the time, mommy chooses life. For just $28, you can help a mommy see her baby and choose life. Visit preborn.org/wretched.
I would say that the biggest spiritual need in Ukraine is men who are equipped to teach and shepherd the church in accordance with the scriptures.
And that need is being met by the Masters Academy International, training pastors to rightly divide the word in Ukraine and 16 other nations. Would you please consider training pastors? Adopt a seminary. Learn more at wretched.org/pastor. wretched.org/pastor.
Welcome back to Wretched, a subject in which most of us likely need a little bit of conviction. On controversy, how Christians engage in issues in which we have a disagreement. Whether it is with a believer or an unbeliever, you and I have a higher code than unbelievers. John Newton is going to help us with a third group to consider. From On Controversy, I hope you have a far nobler aim, and that's sensible of the solemn importance of gospel truths and the compassion due to souls of men. You would rather be a means of removing prejudices in a single instance than obtain the empty applause of thousands. There's our third group to consider, all the people who are hearing or reading what it is that we are thinking. Do we remember the world is watching? So too are other believers, some more mature, some less, and that means we have a responsibility to think about the ancillary audience, not just the person about whom we are speaking, but all those who are going to consume what we are spewing out. Let's let John Newton do the talking. By printing, you will appeal to the public, where your readers may be ranged under three divisions. First, such as differ from you in principle. Concerning these, I may refer you to what I've already said. Though you have your eye upon one person chiefly, there are many like-minded with him, and the same reasoning will hold, whether as to one or to a million. You're writing about Bad Bob, but Bad Bob has got a lot of people that think just like him. And if you write in such a way that it annoys Bad Bob or allows Bad Bob to dismiss your arguments, guess what? All of the people who are like-minded with Bob are going to dismiss you too. More from Mr. Newton. There will be likewise many who pay too little regard to religion. These are very incompetent judges of doctrine, but they can form a tolerable judgment of a writer's spirit. They know that meekness, humility, and love are the characteristics of a Christian temper. In other words, they might not get what you're getting at, but they sure do get you. From John Newton, they are quick-sighted to discern when you deviate from such a spirit and avail yourself of it to justify your contempt of our arguments. The scriptural maxim that the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God is verified by daily observation. A subclass of people who are reading your polemic, they don't get religion well, but they get Christianity just swell. They can hear and feel a Christian tone, even if they do not understand the arguments that are being made. That means we can either lead them more toward Christ or away from him. John Newton put it this way: if our zeal is embittered by expressions of anger, invective, or scorn, we may think we're doing service of the cause of truth, when in reality we shall only bring it into discredit. There are those who are going to be reading you who disagree with you. There are going to be those who read you who are kind of like, but you've also got a third group, which are those who actually agree with you. Those are the people who are inclined to cheer for you, but will it have been worth it if we have edified them by publicly proclaiming what they are internally believing, if we do it in a tone that undermines their Christ-likeness? Who said that this was easy? Writing and talking and speaking about people with whom we disagree, it's not. And if we are going to take one message from John Newton, most likely it needs to be slow your roll before we just go boom, boom, boom. We need to think a lot. From John Newton, the weapons of our warfare, in which alone are powerful to break down the strongholds of error, are not carnal, they're spiritual. Arguments fairly drawn from Scripture and experience and enforced by such a mild address as may persuade our readers that, whether we can convince them or not, we wish well to their souls and contend only for the truth's sake. If we can satisfy them that we act upon these motives, our point is half gained. They will be more disposed to consider calmly what we offer, and if they should still dissent from our opinions, they will be constrained to approve our intentions. Gotta be honest, I have read some presentations that were critical or just presenting their side of an issue that were spot on, but they weren't. My response, they're kind of squishy. Why would I feel that way about a loving presentation? It's because my flesh loves to go to war. I like the idea of sitting in a Fox News chair, debating somebody, scoring points, and winning. I have to mortify that. Why? Because when it comes to controversy, there is much at stake. It is not merely truth, but it is the heart of the one about whom we are writing. It is about the audience who is going to be overlooking our debate and even our own hearts as we go about engaging in controversy. Let's all strive to stay in the Christian lane by writing and speaking like Christ. Surprise, next on Wretched. This may or may not be fair, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. Is it possible that you learned about Paul Washer here, or you saw Steve Lawson for the first time here? Maybe you were introduced to John MacArthur, Alistair Begg, Phil Johnson right here, and you haven't decided yet to become a gospel partner? I told you this probably wasn't going to be fair. If you recall the joy of discovering a treasure chest full of great preachers through this ministry. How's about becoming a gospel partner so that others can discover these preachers too? We'd be very grateful for your ongoing financial support to that end at wretched.org/donate. I'll be needing to see some identification, young man.
Why?
Because you, my friend, are a lawbreaker.
No, I'm not.
You are, according to this video from Ray Comfort. Production, I need the clips on time.
911, what's your emergency?
We met about
Yeah, he asked me to
this.
become a gospel partner, and he took my credit card.
Welcome back to a wretched surprise. Hopefully you had grabbed more than one ice bag from your freezer to put on your John Newton inflicted bruises, because we got 3 more for you. John Newton wrote this: "You may be instrumental to their edification if the law of kindness as well as of truth regulates your pen. Otherwise, you may do people harm." John Newton was not opposed to all public controversy. We do have permission, but it does come with rules, because we can hurt people in more profound ways than we probably think. Number 2, Bruce. There is a principle of self which disposes us to despise those who differ from us. And we are often under its influence when we think we are only showing a becoming zeal in the cause of God. In other words, we are self-deceived. I think I'm putting on my Christian armor to do spiritual battle, when really, all I'm doing is taking out a serrated edge to just hack away at people. Why? Because my heart is deceitful and wicked, and that is why I would encourage you to do something very difficult. If you happen to be one who writes about other people publicly, are you letting loved ones, and even maybe people who aren't so nuts about what you're doing, let them critique it before you post it? Why is this such a helpful step? Because I'm going to give myself a pass every time. No. I know what I meant there. No. It's important that, bink, they get this. Let others say to you, yo, bro, sis, might want to just dial that one back a bit. And finally, from John Newton on controversies for the most part convince and puff up those whom they should edify. I hope your performance will savor of a spirit of true humility and be a means of promoting it in others. Let us, with bruises that need to be healed, let his words sink in, lest we become puffed up. Ain't nobody want that. And until tomorrow, go serve your king.
Congratulations to Ryan Ramos. You're the winner of today's free download, Judge Not. And you could win free stuff too. All you have to do is sign up for the free Wretched newsletter at wretched.org. Wretched, amazing grace.